On the defensive side, there's not a whole lot to talk about. Parker said Jay Higgins is a coach on the field and that just complimented him from that standpoint, which for a lot of coaches and players in that dynamic is about as high a compliment as you can receive. And that Sebastian Castro, I forget how he phrased it exactly, but you just get this picture of somebody who pretty much does everything right. He knows his assignment, just his work ethic, the way he conducts himself on the field, off the field, he's just got everything buttoned up.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that Iowa's had a better cash guy. I mean, they've had some good ones. Amani Hooker, Geno Stone, Dane Belton. They've been really good at that position. I think Sebastian may be the best of all of them. And I know Pro Football Focus came out with some of their rankings during the offseason. I've always said I don't know how to really rate their ability to rate, but they think Sebastian may be the best slot cover guy in college football. And if that's the case, then hey, that's a luxury I asked Seth Wallace that question because Phil was not available for Iowa Media Day. I said, how do you get Kyler Fisher and Sebastian Castro on the field at the same time? Because when they go with the Leo, you're going to have three linebackers, including Kyler Fisher, Jay Higgins, Nick Jackson. But if Sebastian's on the field, on a 4-2-5 cash sort of situation, how do you one of those guys has to be off the field? They can only play with 11 guys. But it's going to be interesting to see how Phil juggles that, Seth juggles that. And Seth gave the right answer. It all just depends on personnel. And I mean, you're going to get those guys on the field a lot. I just wonder if you can get them on the field a lot together. But you're right. I mean, Sebastian may be, I haven't come out with my most indispensable players. I'll probably do that sometime this week. He's got to be right up there, maybe top 5 on this team as it relates to most indispensable. I don't know that quarterback is on the list. Not to change the subject, but I don't think quarterback is on the list for top 5 most indispensable this year. I don't know how it can be when you don't know who the guy is and you've got 2 guys that you think are about equal. But there's no experience behind Sebastian playing cash. I mean, John Nestor maybe is the backup, but I mean that dude's a second-year guy who played a little bit as a corner last year. So he's a missile. His health is going to be of utmost importance. Xavier Wampa, I told my followers here a couple of weeks ago prior to the live scrimmage that he had tweaked his hamstring, and indeed he was out for that live scrimmage. He's still out. Phil Parker told the media today that he expects Xavier to be back here in the coming days. Cohen Intranger is back, but he's still being limited in some regards. And I'm not trying to ignore the question from Jack Veers in the chat. I'm not going to put it up there because I know we got to acknowledge a super chat, but he wants to know about TJ Hall. I was told 2 days ago, I was told TJ is still dinged up. He's been on the field, but limited. And there's a sense that maybe he won't play week 1. The other part of that is there's a pretty rugged competition right now for that spot opposite Jamari Harris with 3 guys, Deshaun Lee, John Nestor, and TJ Hall. So it's too bad. TJ was having a great camp. You hope he gets back, and maybe he will get back for game 1. But he's been limited ever since he dinged up that ankle back on Kids Day.
Corey, you sent me a few different pieces of information this week, as you do, and I always appreciate when Corey and I have our back and forth throughout the week, and I say that in a good way. I send him information. Did you see this? Did you see that? Corey will respond and initiate some other things that he sees out there. So a lot of metrics out there, obviously, in the offseason, highlighting not just what the Iowa defense accomplished last year. And it's a tricky thing to try to take the performance of any unit from one year to the next. But, this is about as consistent as it gets for a unit in college football. And it all starts, of course, with Phil Parker. So he's still there. And then the returning production for what could be argued as the best defense in the nation. I don't think it quite was, but it certainly could be argued the best defense in the nation last year, definitely in the top 5. And then when they bring back the most production of anyone in the Big Ten, second in the nation, I believe was the figure. Wow. That's tough stuff.
Yeah. I mean, who on the schedule, what offense on the schedule really, like, if you look at it and say that's going to be a real challenge for that Iowa defense?
Ohio State.
Okay.
That's gonna be an epic matchup.
So that unit, the Ohio State offense versus the Iowa defense, maybe matchup of the year. I think Iowa State's got a chance. I know Cyclone fans are big on Rocco Beck. They got Abu Sama, who I really like as a tailback. They bring back Jaden Higgins. They've got a good nucleus there. They have a good nucleus on offense at Iowa State. There's a reason why they're projected to maybe be a college football playoff darling. I said that to you last night, Mark. I'm going to, again, this is another project I need to undertake here in the next few days. I'm going to come out with my schedule rankings based on, difficulty as it relates to each team on the schedule. I think Iowa State may be number 2 right now. I don't know. It's pretty close between Iowa State, Wisconsin, Nebraska, and maybe Washington. But I may be overselling. I think I'm even starting to the subtleties of the polls and these different things. I don't think they're going to be that good. The attrition that they dealt with and the staff changes, but these polls that you and I both don't respect whatsoever still have them fringe top 25, and the preseason the preseason Big Ten standings projections have them top 10 in the conference. So I might be feeding into that a little bit, but I think it's very close after Ohio State of who the next most difficult team on the schedule is. Who would you place at number 2 right now? Would it be Iowa State?
Yes.
All those games are at home. By the way, all those games are at home. All of them. Every single one of them. Besides Ohio State.
Yeah, I would go Iowa State number 2. I do think that it will be interesting to see what Dylan Raiola is in game 12. That's a lot of time to mature and handle the offense and get it under control and mature and be starting to fulfill his potential. He's probably the most talented quarterback they're going to face this year. Not the best, the most talented. But Nebraska's had their issues on offense, and they've got a long way to go. Now, they were very banged, much like Iowa on that side of the football, very banged up. Unfortunately, lost their left tackle a couple weeks ago. That's going to really hurt their offensive line situation. But there's no Michigan, there's no Penn State, there's no USC, there's no Oregon. Oh, I would love to have seen Iowa line up against USC's offense, Oregon's offense.
Well, that could still happen in a playoff situation.
Sure. Could. Yeah, Big Ten championship game or a playoff. Maryland. I haven't yet to do a deep dive on Maryland, but Billy Edwards was Talia's backup for a few years. He might be the starter, or it could most likely will be MJ Morris, who's a pretty good quarterback, dual threat guy out of NC State who transferred to Maryland. So Maryland would have one of the better offenses that they will face this year. College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.